What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
And I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. An unexpected album review, too.
Very unexpected. I've heard of it at random scrolling through Facebook today, so...
Same here. Did not realize that the Acacia Strain had released a new album. It comes in waves. This came out literally today, the 26th of December, which generally you're not really looking for albums coming out in December because generally this is kind of a month that's kind of a rest period up until a little bit later in January.
Especially the very end of December. We're 5 days before the new year and they release an album. Like, all right.
Came out on closed casket activities, so I guess they are removed from prosthetic now. I think they were on E1 too for a while. From Massachusetts, been around since 2001. This is their 9th full length, and they're pretty much a straightforward deathcore band. They've pretty much always been that, very meat potatoes, breakdown savvy, in your face, all that hardcore groove and shit.
Until this record.
This is notably different than anything they've done.
Yeah.
Even some of their earlier stuff where there was a little bit more ambience and more straightforward kind ofness, this is decidedly different.
So yeah, the first track, Hour, comes in with this weird, like, female vocal thing that I believe dictates some of the lyrics of the song. I don't know, we only listened to this record twice, so...
But it was enough to notice that it was an interesting intro. There were some clean guitars over kind of an industrial...
Kind of like, I just said like static. It had like a static feel, and then some clean melody-driven guitars.
Remind me of GODFLESH, honestly.
Yeah.
Like kind of that weird ambient industrial noise in the background, and then the song just fucking explodes.
Right, and then it kicks in with actually what reminds me of really early Acacia Strain, kind of down to like the Dead Walk or even 3750. Just came in with this pummeling kind of hardcore-ish drum beat.
I was really shocked though because most of the stuff they've released over the past couple of years has kind of favored the more mid-tempo side. Like they like the good groovy mid-tempo chug-a-thon breakdown, lots of palm muting. None of that showed up on this song. It was almost kind of CONVERGE-ish. Like it was very noisy, in your face.
Or like Conjurer.
Yeah.
Conjurer came to mind too.
This is already noticeably different because you can hear the production in this, and the production
on this record's killer.
Fantastic. But again, notably different than anything they've done before. It feels less digital. It feels more full. And you notice that right away because the palm muted chugs aren't really prevalent on this, like, at all. Like, there's a few moments here and there. So this album is just taking massive breaths.
But even the palm mutes you only get from one guitar, you still get like this just like ambient drone behind it. And there's constant melody.
Constant.
Which is weird.
Very different for them because this band has melody in it. I'll go ahead and say that. But it's not as prevalent. It's mostly about the fucking beatdown.
Yeah.
This has melody scattered all throughout it, and it really kind of works.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the song, it kind of slows down a little bit, and you really get a sense of not necessarily their old kind of groovy breakdown self, but more like sludge metal or doom. It's fiercely layered, fiercely sludgy sounding, but well produced. So you just get this giant full sound that honestly has not been prevalent on a lot of Acacia Strain releases in the past.
Really, any that I can think of. I mean, when you go back into their catalog, stuff like I brought up Brain Drill earlier from Death is the Only Immortal. That has kind of a melodic tone to it. I think there's even a guitar solo in that record.
So one that really stood out to me, again, for its stark difference to anything they've done before, was the song Sin. Opens up immediately with At the Gates melodic riffing. Like, I did not expect that. And it's a spot-on At the Gates riff. Like, instinctually right away, like, that's At the Gates. It sounds very much like melodic death metal. And again, like, I know that was a big part of metalcore and even deathcore to some extent, but it didn't come out as clear in this. There really is barely any deathcore to this song. Now, towards the end, it actually gets more into post-metal. Like, it really has, like, a Neurosis-like feel, which, again, is something that's really never been in their wheelhouse. Now kind of breaks up a little bit with some spoken word excerpts and some clean guitar in there. And again, another thing that I'm not used to from the Acacia Strain, atmosphere.
Yes.
This has a very
ton of
cold,
it.
dark atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a very dark, like gloomy kind of doom feel. Again, if I would have sat down and listened to this earlier in the day, if somebody else had been playing it, I wouldn't have said it was the Acacia Strain. I wouldn't have known.
If he hadn't told me,
yeah,
I wouldn't have believed him.
I'm
like, what?
I mean, you can definitely hear Vincent, but I mean, it doesn't sound anything like him. It would have been like Vincent was guest starring on something else.
His vocals are very layered on this, and there are some spots in here where they have like kind of almost an auto-tune sung part. It doesn't feel necessarily very natural, but I do like the fact that he's trying some different things on here.
Sure.
But he really did seem like he pushed himself. There are some higher register screams here that are interesting. It isn't just his token kind of low bark.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's very staticky, too. Like, it just kind of adds to the atmosphere overall in this. Again, not expecting any of this. Hell, I wasn't even expecting this album.
I
don't
didn't
think
either. I had no idea. And he and I follow constantly as to what new releases are coming out. And I heard jack crap about this. So
nothing.
One that really stood out to me, I think stood out to both of us, was the song Was. Starts with a really clean, almost like chant kind of vocal pattern. It sounds like it was recorded in a cave almost.
That's, again, this sort of atmosphere thing that's never really been a part of them, and it was different. It kind of set the mood because the song is sludgy and doomy and just, I mean, it doesn't really have a lot of those core moments that you really expect from Acacia Strain. It has some of them, but man.
So there's another spoken word thing on this, and it kind of reminds me of the guy talking about Area 51 on the Faceless album, Planetary Duality. It's Planetary Duality #1. It just kind of reminds me of that. It sounds like a guy just kind of going mad.
It sounded like there were audio excerpts from a movie. I'm really not sure which one, but it definitely kind of built a lot of tension. And that was kind of an interesting thing on here. It's a lot of tension and release, which, again, Acacia Strain's very much full on in your face almost at all times. There are moments where they actually do have some more atmospheric stuff in their past, but this is for an entire album, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, typically when I think of the Acacia Strain, I think like, Wormwood or Continent, where it's just a constant beatdown, and that really didn't appear on this. And then, this song moves into, it's got some Black Crown Initiate moments, I think, as far as the ambience and the melody is concerned. I was reminded of Crowbar at times, too.
Yeah, there was a distinct Crowbar, like Kurt Weinstein sort of fucking melody on there.
Yeah.
And, again, wasn't expecting that. But then again, I wasn't expecting this entire album, so there's a lot of the unexpected on this.
And the song's almost 6 minutes long in the middle of the album, and for the Acacia Strain, they're not known for fairly lengthy songs. For a 7-track album to be at 30 minutes, I'm kind of impressed on that forefront.
Now, one that stood out to me was Them. Mainly because this is the throwback track. Like, this is the only one on here.
That sounds like the Acacia Strain.
It sounds like the Acacia Strain. If he had played that one for me, I totally would have believed it was Acacia Strain. Palm Muted Chugs are back, albeit with this more dense, ugly production. So it sounds a little different. But this one sounded like the throwback, and I have to say it was jarring. Just because this song is notably different than pretty much the rest of the album.
Sure.
And it almost sounds like two different bands wrote it, like this was possibly an idea from a previous album, like Coma Witch or Grave Bloom or what have you, and they just wanted to sort of rework it with this new production because it really doesn't have the feel of any of the other tracks. There are spots in Names, I think, that's similar, but this one is entirely different.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy as nuts.
Now, Names is the big closer on here. This is, nearly 9 minutes long?
8 minutes and 47 seconds, so...
And it's huge. It has some of the elements from Them on there, which, had that old Acacia Strain sound, but also incorporating that post-metal and almost death doom and sludge in there, too. And, again, a fuck ton of atmosphere. There's lots of dissonant tremolo strumming in there. And, it kind of reminded me a lot of some of the stuff I heard on Cult of Luna's most recent release that was on my year-end list because it's fucking brilliant. It really reminded me of that, and again, that's something I wasn't expecting. So this whole album is about the unexpected.
Yeah, really. It's experimentation, I think, at its highest for a band like this.
Yeah, but at the same time, I wonder what prompted this change. Because did they really need to change? Probably not. They have a loyal fan base. And you see this trend sort of popping up a lot in deathcore and some death metal with the more ambient sound.
But I think, too, really, in my opinion, and this is, again, just my personal opinion, Coma Witch and Grave Bloom, those two records were meh.
I wasn't a big fan. I've kind of lost my feel for deathcore kind of overall.
Well, and that, too. I mean, deathcore, to me, has been dead for a while.
But I like good heavy music.
Sure.
So, I mean, I generally go back and check out Acacia Strain releases because they're always heavy. They're always heavy.
Right, exactly. If I really want a good heavy, album release, and someone says, "Well, hey, there's a new Acacia Strain," there's no doubt in my mind that I could listen to it and just in my mind beat someone to death because that's what they are.
Definitely keep that in your mind. But my whole issue,
if I was going to beat you to death, it would have been a long time ago.
I probably would have deserved it. My whole issue here with this is almost a sense of identity crisis. Is this the new band they want to be, or are they going to change back? Is this, this is the kind of release that kind of can alienate a fan base. Some people may really latch on this new sound. Some people may distance themselves from it because they feel they've shifted over to a current trend in deathcore right now, and even death metal bands like Rivers of Nile, Black Crown Initiate, and even Fit for an Autopsy.
Yeah.
Bringing in this more ambient sound in kind of their deathcore-ish sound or death metal sound. And
so is it a trend? Is I guess what we're stating.
I
here.
think it could be a bit of a trend, and they might have jumped on it, but there's also the case of execution, which I think they executed really well. Mm-hmm. Maybe just the jarring difference between some of the tracks. But for the most part, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this because I haven't really enjoyed an Acacia Strain release like this.
And neither have I. I think
in a while.
Death is the Only Mortal is the last Acacia Strain album I really liked. So that really, stuck with me. That I still jam to this day. So this was unexpected.
Yeah.
On all four fronts.
So overall, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I think this is a really good release, and I like the direction they're going. I kind of can't help but to think the motivation is maybe changing to keep up with times. And, maybe it's just necessary evolution, or this lineup has changed a lot. Maybe this is the sound they want to go for, and Vince, their frontman, is really down with it because he adapted well to it.
Yeah, he really did. I was really impressed with the vocal performance overall. He really put it out there.
Yeah. This is honestly the most interesting thing I've heard from the Acacia Strain in years. So, This is a pretty solid release. I'd check it out.
Yep. I'm also going to give it 3.5 stars. I waver between 3.5 and 4. It's definitely nothing I've ever heard from these guys. And I like progression in music. I've said it before and I'll say it again. To release an album in this day and age with as much music as is out, you need to have something groundbreaking or mind-blowing to make a dent in what's going on because there's so much music out there.
Execute, too.
Execute. I really enjoyed this album. It was, and I was going to review this by myself, and I had him sit in with me because I really didn't know what I was going to say because of how different it was. I wanted to make sure that we touched on everything. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It was a good jam. I'm curious to see what comes next. I read in an interview that they were talking about releasing more stuff for 2020, so I want to know what comes next. Good record as far as I'm concerned, though. So,
and I'm curious to see what the fans think. I mean, I like this style of like ambience and like layered sounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But some people may be more attached to the older sound. So again, this is kind of a divisive release, I sense. I might be wrong there.
I was on Reddit for a little bit earlier just trying to find... Actually, we were trying to find who produced this album, and I couldn't find it. But I was on Reddit, and I saw a lot of mixed emotions, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, if you liked the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe. And hit a bell, too, right? There's a bell.
Hit the bell icon, because if you don't hit the bell, you won't have any idea when we release new videos. And if that's the case, pushing subscribe is pointless if you don't hit the bell. It's not pointless. We're great.
Yeah, no, hit the subscribe button. Because we do shit like this all the time.
time.
Catch you guys later.
Later.